as always, I'll give you my top 3 at the end, but that's going to be pretty hard for this one. There's 7 or 8 that I really like a lot. Hey everyone, time for my 4th video on my January 1st to March 31st table, and I am just getting warmed up. The reason I have so many videos on this table is because I am grouping the 233 sets a bunch of different ways so we can look at specific ranges or criteria so that it becomes a more palatable dose of information in each video. The first one, it was $50 and less, and then $50 to $100 sets, and then $100 to $200 sets, and now in this video, it is $200 and above MSRP, and then in my next few videos, I'm going to look at the same table for all of these Star Wars sets, maybe the Speed Champions, ideas, icons, things like that. If you are unfamiliar with how I developed this table and what all the data and information means, then go check out my video a few ago and it is a full explanation. But we're going to jump right into the first $200 or higher set, which is 75290 Mos Eisley Cantina. We're coming out with a heavy hitter. This one is $400, 18 mentions in the first 3 months of 2024 with an enthusiasm score of 2.3. I love the mentions. I agree. The E-score is a little low, but I get it because the price tag is so high. Some people just do not invest in sets over $250 or $300 because it is very expensive to ship them. It's a lot of storage space, and so that definitely can drive down the enthusiasm score. For me, this is a fantastic set, but I'm not going to buy too many because I don't like to risk $400 on one set and deal with all the storage space too. So I hope to get 2 or 3. Let's dive right into the metrics. It will have over a 4-year shelf life, so that is a negative, but everything else is pretty much positive. A 4.6 on Brickset. On eBay, when we include shipping, it's going right at MSRP, $390, $400. Here's one for $430 including shipping. There are 139 new listings currently available on eBay. Pretty good, but not the best. I like to see that under 100. On Amazon, it's going for $465, and looking at the camel chart, early in its life, it was up around $500 for a pretty good period of time on the third-party market. And then recently, when it's starting to pop in and out of stock, it's going to $450 to $500. That's good evidence in support of the expectation that it will retire at the end of this year. I have an R in parentheses in front of the set number and name here on the table. That indicates that according to the Brick Fanatics website, it is expected to retire at the end of this year. Remember, none of the retirement lists out there are perfect. There will be a few changes here and there, but Brick Fanatics has a very high percentage accuracy rate. I don't expect this to be one of the sets that comes off of the retirement list since it already has a 4.5-year shelf life. Brick Economy lists the current value of the minifigures. I'm going to butcher a bunch of names for you, but Garandan is about $30, Greedo is $10, Herchek Kal Faz is $12, Labria is $21, Cabe is $14, Moma Nadan is $20, Panda Baba is $22, both Sand Troopers are $20, and if we go a little further down here, right there, the total minifigure value is $234 at about 55-60% of MSRP. Bricklink is showing in the last 6 months about $300. That's before shipping, but it has gone up. So in April alone, it's up to $330. Again, another indication that everybody's expecting it to retire at the end of this year. And then I also like to show this occasionally, but the part out value on Bricklink is $560 in the last 6 months, but the current listings are for $735. So that's another good trend and another good value. All different angles are showing great value for this set. This is from the Master Builder series, and there's only one other in the Master Builder series line, and that is Betrayal at Cloud City, which has more than doubled in value, and that is because of the minifigures in a big way. Boba Fett for $150 value today, Han Solo $123, and then our favorite, the Lando minifigure at $250. A few Cantina comparables. Here's the one in 2004, $30 to $270. Makes sense because it was the original. The second one that came out in 2015 is a little bigger, so it's $70 to $132. Also makes sense because it's reasonably substantial with, what is that, 8 minifigures. And then the most recent one that retired in 2018 is from $40 to $56. Also makes sense because this is pretty much a duplicate of both or either of the 2 previous. And so there's nothing new here, not many minifigures. But then all of a sudden, bam, we get this one that has tons of build to it and tons of minifigures. So this is something totally new to the 3 previous versions of the Cantina. With the minifigures valued at $235, we can look at the cost of the building and all the side builds at $165, and I think they will have much greater value than that, especially especially with all of the amazing detail and all of the side builds and outbuildings. I think this is a timeless build that will be popular for another generation or two into the future. It's my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. The music and the band is playing is amazing. I can't gush enough about this set, but again, that price tag's going to hold me back, so I hope to get a couple to hold on to for investing purposes. Okay, now on to the next set, 10320, the Dorado Fortress, 13 mentions, an E-score of 2.5. I totally agree. I love those numbers right there. Expected to retire at the end of this year, so a short 1.5-year shelf life of 4.5 on brick set. I'm not going to spend time going into any other details because I have this on my power rankings video from a few weeks ago, but I do want to show you what this set is based off of, and it is this one, the 1989 Dorado Fortress. Very cool set, also a 4.6, but in this case, you need $1,800 to pick it up new. So I absolutely think that people will want to get this one for a premium a few years into retirement. And a quick side note, I am just about done building this set, maybe 15 more minutes to go. I showed my parents my progress so far, and I gave them a quick pop quiz and said, hey, what do you think the retail price is? And they said $260 to $300. And I said, exactly. And then I told them $215 for 2,500 pieces. And they felt like that was an excellent deal. So right out of the gate, I think there's decent runway for this set to take off from. 10306, the Atari 2600 came out in August of 2022, so over 2 years shelf life. 10 mentions, that's pretty good for this set, and it does have a 1.3 enthusiasm score. That's not so good. It does have a 4.2 on brick set, which is decent. I'd like to see this enthusiasm score be about a 1.8. I know a lot of people are really down on this set for investing, and honestly, I think that is going to keep the supply on the secondary market pretty low, and I think there will be a little bit of demand. If you guys have watched my previous videos, you know that I like this set. It's just really cool to look at. There's a lot of color. It's a great build. I actually played with an Atari 2600 when I was a kid for a little while, but the data isn't great for the most part. On eBay, 140 shipped. That one is 170 shipped. Another one that's 140 shipped, well below MSRP. There are only 94 new listings on eBay, so pretty good metric right there. The Camel 3X chart isn't great. You know, there are some early signs that were pretty good. It going for 265, even 280 a little bit. But as time has gone on, it's hit a bunch of sales. There's obviously low demand for it. Third-party market has had to match the primary market. The part out value is around $400, also not a great metric. But for some reason, there's a lot of things I like about this set. It's mostly hunch, but also it's an icon set with a great build. Icon's ideas have a lot of similarities. A lot of retired sets in both those themes have done pretty well. I think we'll see deep discounts from the $240 MSRP, and $240 isn't bad. 25, 32 pieces. I know price to part ratio isn't everything, but it's not a bad starting price. But all this data is telling me that it's flying under the radar and there will be little supply on the secondary market for, again, a really good build. And the cartridges are great. Even though they're stickers, they look great. The vignettes are really cool. I love how clean the build is for the console, the switches, the joystick, the wire, the plug. From a design and execution standpoint, it is outstanding. And lastly, a lot of things that are old are becoming new again or becoming very popular. You know, we're really liking the retro style right now. You can buy a new Atari console on Amazon. Yeah, it's $130. Pretty good. Get cartridges and play a lot of the classic games. 71741, Ninjago City Gardens, 7 mentions, E-score of 2.6. I fully agree with those metrics. This is a really easy one for me to analyze. All metrics are great. $350 for 5,700 pieces, a 4.7 on brick set. The previous sets in this sub-theme have done well. Here's the original, the Ninjago City, more than doubled in value. Here's the second one that retired, the City Docks, that also has more than doubled in value. Both of those look great and they're highly rated on brick set. And then we've got the new one, the City Markets, that is definitely the least popular of the 4, but I still think it looks fantastic. Yeah, it's a little bulky through the middle, but when you put them with other sets to build a larger Ninja or Ninjago themed city or environment, then I think this one fits right in. And this one also has a 4.5. So we've got a sub-theme with 4 sets where all 4 of them are extremely popular. The first 2 have done excellent on the secondary market. This one is a slam dunk for me. And don't forget, Lego just released these micro Ninjago City sets that are going to be very small replica of the 4 large ones. These, I think, will add to the buzz around the 4 large sets. There's only one hesitation that is concerning people. Is the secret out because the first 2 sets in this sub-theme are doing so well? As a result, will there be too much supply and not enough demand after this one retires? buyers? I think the answer is no. Over 10,000 people on Brickset already own this set. Supply is huge. It is beautiful. It is the best of the four. Another 3,300 still want it. Also, there are only 70 new listings on eBay right now. With the $350 price point, a lot of investors either just have a policy that they don't invest in the higher price point sets, or their investing capital is low enough that they don't want to risk a large chunk on these high dollar sets. Everything I'm seeing says great investment, and I'm really excited about this one. 10274 Ghostbusters Ecto-1, $240, 2352 pieces, 4.4 on Brickset, very solid. 7 mentions, but only an E-score of 1.7. I agree, it's actually not my favorite set. It's a really good design, a really good build for diehard Ghostbusters fans. They will love it. Even though it's very accurate to the source material, and I love the movies, and I love the car in the movies, it's actually not a car that I would want to look at on the shelf. It's just not pleasing to look at. It's very messy, which is the way it's supposed to be. There's lots of stickers and dents and scratches in it, and the car itself is just not a cool looking car. Again, it's perfect for the movie role, but not something that I would want to display. If I got it, I would build it, and eventually I'd put it away or sell it as a used set. On eBay, though, it's actually selling pretty close to MSRP when shipping's included. Here's 232, 232, 210, that's a little lower, 193 plus 25 shipping. But let's look at some comparables. Here's the T2 camper van that retired in 22. From 180 to 145, I know it's only had a year and a few months on the secondary market. There was some design and build issues with this set, but let's go to the T1 camper van that retired in 2012. It's 120 to 145. That's not great. London bus that retired in 21 from 140 to 116. VW Beetle that retired in 2020 from 100 to 130. And then here's the Aston Martin DB5 that retired at the end of 2021, and it's 150 to 188. It's okay. But notice that all of my comparables are vehicles with little side builds or a bunch of messy stuff where the lines of the vehicle are just not super sharp or super clean, just like the Ecto-1 vehicle here. But then when we look at sports cars and muscle cars that are really clean, now none of these have retired or they just recently retired, but like the Ford Mustang, super clean, super awesome. I can see people wanting to display this vehicle. Same thing with the Porsche 911 and then also the Chevy Camaro. 71374, the NES, and as you guys know, it's not my favorite set. There's just so much gray, so much brown, and I don't like the television. Yes, it is a great build and design. Yes, the action feature is great, but the television next to the actual NES unit just looks so off to me, and it just doesn't work for me. But the data doesn't lie. 6 mentions, decent, 2.2 enthusiasm score, that's okay, but a 4.6 on Brickset, which is fantastic, and there are over 11,000 people on Brickset that own it already, and another 3,200 that want to own it. 500 purchased in the last month on Amazon, and on Camel 3X, it's a pretty good third-party chart. It hit almost $400 early in life, and then when it's gone out of stock, it's jumped from the MSRP of $270 up to even $350. But on eBay, the news isn't quite as good. $240 shipped, $207 shipped, and here's one that's $215. That's a fair amount lower than the MSRP. I recognize there's some color in the TV screen, but between this one and the Atari, I still personally like the Atari a lot better. I would absolutely like this in my own collection, but I don't plan on getting the NES in my own collection, even though many people have reported that the build for the NES is fantastic. 76218, Sanctum Sanctorum, 6 mentions, E-score of 2. This is a sleeper that is absolutely starting to wake up. It came out in late 2022, so it's going to have, what, about a 2.5-year shelf life, a 4.6, another very highly rated set, $250 for 2,700 pieces, 9 minifigures, a lot going on. It looks really good. The interior is so-so, but at least there's pretty good detail on the interior. I definitely see the mentions increasing for this set and the enthusiasm score popping up to about a 2.4. I almost put it in my recent power rankings video, and it might actually crack the top 10 before the end of the year. And if we look at some comparables, here's the original Sanctum Sanctorum that retired in 2019, $100 to $164 with a big fig and some minifigures. Pretty good, but the building is not nearly as good as the one that's retiring this year. And then we've also got this Attack on Avengers Tower that retired in 2016, and it's $60 up to $167. So there's some precedent. Yes, these sets that I'm using as comparables are smaller and cheaper, but this one also looks a lot like a modular building and would fit well with a modular building city. And pretty much all modular buildings have done great on the secondary market. So there's two different kinds of comparables, and therefore there's two potential different kinds of markets once this set retires. You know, people that like Marvel and superheroes and minifigures, and people that like city building with the modular buildings. 10303, the Loop Coaster, 6 mentions, E-score 1.3. I think those metrics should be lower. This is one that I am skipping. It's $400. Yeah, it's a 4.4 on Brickset, but if we look at the previous roller coaster that retired in 2021, 370, and it's down to 352. Remember, I've come to the conclusion that the current value numbers on Brickset are a good representation after you pay shipping, after you pay fees. So look at that as your take-home pay, for example. I think the coasters perform poorly because there's just so much open space. You know, when you look at how much plastic is there and how much open space, yeah, it has a large presence and it has a large footprint, but then it's not very filled. And when you look at that and you look at the price tag, you're like, oh man, you know, how much value is really there? Now on to Home Alone, 21330, 5 mentions, E-score of 2.4. And this is the first set on this list that is not expected to retire at the end of this year. If it's not retiring at the end of the year, there's not much point in looking too closely at it. But I will say that I do like the 5 mentions and the E-score of 2.4. It's going to have over a 4-year shelf life, but it's $300 for almost 4,000 pieces and 5 unique minifigures, a classic movie that we watch year after year, Christmas after Christmas. So I'm a huge fan of this set, but obviously we need to watch and see when we're going to get a retirement date. 75313, the UCS AT-AT. I've talked about this set a lot in past videos. 4 mentions, seems reasonable. A crazy enthusiasm score of 2.8. Remember, the E-score is out of 3.0, so that is very, very high. I am skipping this set simply because of the $850 price point. I don't want to invest in one unit that costs that much. You know, like what if I bang it up or, you know, it gets damaged or something, and then I could be out a big chunk of money. I'd much rather have, what is that, like 12 helmets or something like that? But some people are definitely going to be investing in it. There will be very little supply on the secondary market. All first versions of UCS ships and vehicles historically have done really, really well. And if we look at Brick Economy, the whole UCS series, there are 38 sets, 138 minifigures. Most of them have retired. Let's see, it says 32 have retired and there's 6 currently available. If you bought them all, you spent $11,000 and they're valued at $34,000, which is a 315% growth. So the statistical proof is in the pudding, but I'm still not diving into this one. And one thing to point out is here on Camel 3X, third-party sales are below MSRP a fair amount in some cases. Yes, this set hasn't really gone out of stock, so we don't have a great measurement on how it will do when there is less supply available, but it's worth pointing this out. 21341, Disney Hocus Pocus, the Sanderson Sisters Cottage, super cool set, but it came out in the middle of last year, no retirement date. 4 mentions, E-score 2.5. I think it's great, but too early to really know for sure, but there's a couple of other sets that it'll go well with. The Medieval Blacksmith that we all love that retired not too long ago, and then the new Medieval Town Square. 71411, the Mighty Bowser, a 4.5 on Brickset, very steep $270, but I think we will get some good sales opportunities with this one. 4 mentions, E-score at 2.3. I expect that E-score to creep up when we do get into the year that is expected retirement, which is probably next year. This is an amazing build. It's the best Mario display piece by a long shot, in my opinion. And then the second best, in my opinion, is the Piranha Plant that came out late last year. Much smaller set, but this one is cool. So at least we're getting a few that will all display well, and they're very popular. This one's a 4.7 on Brickset. No retirement date yet. I'm only watching it and getting excited about this one for some time in the future. 21327, the Typewriter. This one was also on my Power Rankings video. Tons of sand green pieces, tons of action features. I think there's a lot of appeal with how plain and simple it looks overall. And, you know, just smooth, clean edges. It looks a lot like the subject material. And if somebody builds it and displays it nicely on a shelf, a lot of people aren't even going to realize at first that it's Lego. And I think that is very appealing. Here is a great Camel 3X chart. It's been out of stock. Most third-party sales have been a good bit above MSRP. I expect similar trends after retirement, but I do think it'll be a longer hold time. 4 mentions, only an E-score of 1.8. I think that's just because it's so plain and it doesn't, you know, have the big splash or bang that pulls people in. Only a couple of prominent colors, but I like these metrics because I think it's flying under the radar. 75308, R2D2, 4 mentions, E-score of 1.8. That should be like an E-score of 0.5. This is an absolute pass in my opinion. It was a pass anyways for me, but then Lego came out with this $100 R2D2 earlier this year with the Darth Malak minifigure. And oh, check check out the minifigure on eBay. Already going for $50. If you buy this set, you can sell half the value off on that minifigure alone. 21318, the Ideas Treehouse. 4 mentions, E-score of 1.5. Either this set is going to be a total fail as an investment or it's going to be awesome. Obviously, many people have already invested in it because it's been on the retirement list multiple times and then taken off. And so a number of people are either losing money on this set or they've got a bunch of stock that they're just waiting on. And of course, that money is tied up and so they're losing money on it. I only have the one that I built. I am not going to be picking any up for investment, but a number of people out there are saying, hey, it's been so long now that we've thought it would retire that everybody else has already given up. And now everybody's mad at this set as an investment. And so if you can scoop some up right at the end, then they would do well post-retirement. I just don't want to take that risk. There's definitely some validity to that argument. I just don't want to take that risk. 21332, the Ideas Globe. This one I actually like a decent amount. I did not like it at the beginning, but it's growing on me. The stand and the cradle are very classy and a globe is classy, even though the build and all the gappiness isn't great. But that world map hit the secondary market with a pretty strong splash. And so I think that that is a small telling sign. I don't think this one's going to go crazy, but I think there's some potential, but I'm not picking it up unless there's a really good discount. The next 5 are large buildings without retirement dates yet, but once they do retire, their comparables certainly indicate that they will do well in the secondary market. Too early to really know for sure. The first one is this modular building, 10297, the Boutique Hotel. I personally like the colors and design. There's been some hate on this one. The next one is the Lion Knights Castle, 10305. I love this one. It is $400, so it's hard to say how much growth it could get on the secondary market, but we haven't had a good or a large castle in a very long time, other on the Bricklink program where it seems like everyone is a castle. I still love this one. It's a 4.8 on brick set. I don't know if I'm going to invest in it because that $400 price point though. 10316, Lord of the Rings Rivendell, coming in at $500. Probably the most artistic, beautiful set that Lego has produced in a very long time. A 4.7 on brick set. 76178, the Daily Bugle, a 4.6. I feel very similar about this one as I do the Sanctum Sanctorum, other than the fact that this one came out in 2021 and there's still no retirement date yet, so it's going to be a long shelf life. These 4 all have 3 mentions with an E-score of 2. Seems reasonable this early in the game. And then the next one that is a large building is the Natural History Museum. Just came out in December. 3 mentions, E-score 1.7. Looks good. A lot of people don't like the olive green color. I actually do. I think it makes it look academic. Normally I wouldn't like that color for a building, but since it's a museum, to me it fits right. And then there's enough color contrast with the trees and the signs and the statues and the fence out front, and of course the white columns. 76240, the Batmobile Tumbler. 3 mentions, an E-score 1. Seems fine to me. This is a pass. $270, super expensive for the 2,049 pieces. Yes, the UCS Batmobile that retired in 2021 is from $250 to $366, so that was a decent investment. But then the second large Batman UCS type set that retired, this Batwing, $200 to $208, and it's been over a year into retirement. That scares me. The Batmobile is the most iconic, so I get it. The Batwing is pretty iconic, but then the Tumbler is less iconic and the build isn't great, pretty studdy. So I think this one is a money loser. 10312, the Jazz Club modular building that came out in January of this year. 2 mentions, E-score of 2. Another great modular building that we'll need to keep an eye on. 21348, Dungeons and Dragons Red Dragon's Tail. This is a very cool set. $360. It's a lot, but 3,700 pieces. Some minifigures are in there, a lot of colors. There are a lot of people that are excited about this set. I think it's sold out in a lot of stores very quickly. There's a huge Dungeons and Dragons following, another one that I want to keep an eye on, but this one just came out in April of this year. 43242, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage, came out a couple of months ago. 2 mentions, E-score of 2. There it is on the table. Not my favorite. The minifigures are okay. I don't like the build, and I don't know if the material is really going to be that popular. Yes, there are tons of people that love classic Disney. Snow White is great, but I still feel like the market could be pretty narrow. I'll watch it, but I'm not too excited about this one when it gets close to a retirement date. On the opposite side of the spectrum, this one I am very excited about. 75367, the Venator class Republic attack cruiser. A large gray UCS ship with some color in it is fantastic. $650. 2 mentions, E-score of 2 on this one. Also a 4.5 on brick set. I see this one being a $1,500 set, maybe a number of good years after retirement, but it's the first of this ship in UCS form, and at the $650 price point, there are not going to be a lot of copies on the secondary secondary market, so there will be very low supply when we do get to that, but we're years away from this one retiring. Oh, and don't forget, my videos are for entertainment purposes only. I do not provide financial advice. You got to get that from somebody else. 75341, Luke's Landspeeder, the UCS meme set. 2 mentions, E-score of 1.5. It's only $240. Yeah, that's expensive for the 1900 pieces, but we're going to have great sales for this one. We've already had some pretty good sales, and this one is so hated that I think on a really good sale, which should happen, and so if you're vigilant about it, I think there's a chance. I know that all the metrics show that there's no demand. Someday in the future, I think there will be demand. It's the first UCS of this ship, and there are some elements to this that look pretty good. Some people have complained about the color of the body, but I like that. It makes it look like it's sanded up and a little bit worn out as it's been cruising around Tatooine. So this one for my eyes works for me. 76252 Batcave Shadow Box. What a cool set, but at $400 for basically 2 colors and something that ultimately will have a narrow market. I don't think there's any investment potential there, but I would love to have one in my own collection. It probably won't happen, but I would love to have one. 2 mentions, E-score of 1.5. 10332, the Medieval Town Square, just came out. Goes well with the blacksmith that we looked at and a bunch of other sets. I love it. It's a 4.8, has tons of potential, but it came out a couple of months ago. So right now it's just one to watch. 2 mentions, E-score 1.5. I'm not worried about that at all. This will absolutely fluctuate depending upon what we think the supply and demand is going to be. 21323, the Grand Piano, 2 mentions, E-score of 1. Yeah, I agree with that. It's a pass. Super cool, but too narrow of an audience. $400, very expensive. But we looked at the Mighty Bowser earlier. I would love to make this happen. Now you're almost $700 in on Lego pieces. That is well done. We all know the reference. Super cool. 76417, Gringotts Wizarding Bank, i.e. 2 sets that they pressure compressed into one and made it $430. It's terrible. I wish I could buy the top half on its own and not get the rest of it. Well, obviously the dragon would have to come with it. I'm not investing in pretty much anything Harry Potter right now, maybe a Brickheads here and there, so this is a pass for me. The Titanic, 1 mention, E-score of 3, so that's a top E-score, but it's only 1 mention. This came out in 2021, no retirement date yet. 4.6 on brick set, $680. There's some concerning metrics with this set and some really encouraging metrics. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but that is with the caveat that it retires someday and doesn't have a assembly square or tree house shelf life. 76405, Hogwarts Express Collector's Edition. Again, a pass for me on the Harry Potter set. 1 mention, E-score of 2. 21344, the Orient Express Train. This is an ideas set, which means we should all be very excited about it. $300, honestly, not too bad. Oh wait, it's not powered. There's no battery box or anything in this, and that unfortunately is a big miss. The interiors to the dining car and sleeping car is awesome, but many complaints about the oversimplified engine, especially when we compare it to the original fan submission. We won't know for years which direction this one could go in retirement, but I'm not too excited about it right now. 10323, the Pac-Man Arcade. What a cool set, 4.4, but I'm nervous about this one on the secondary market. 1 mention, E-score of 1. That's kind of where I am. It might surprise us all, but I don't know that I'd want to drop 270 on something that is this risky. We don't even have a retirement date yet, so who really knows? 75355, the new UCS X-Wing Starfighter. It's a pass for me. We've had a UCS X-Wing before, and we're experiencing X-Wing fatigue, at least on the secondary market. They fly off the shelves on the primary market. That's why Lego keeps producing a new one every few years. 75978, Diagon Alley. Skipping that one. 76391, Hogwarts Icons Collector's Edition. Skipping this one too, even though this one actually I like pretty good for my own collection. As promised, we'll wrap up with my top 3, so let me scroll back up. I'm having trouble with my mouse. There we go. In 3rd place is the Ninjago City Gardens, and here it was on the table. 7 mentions, E-score of 2.6. I gushed and I love it. There's so much pleasure that comes with a set that looks like this at this size, this many pieces, and that price point. People glance at this and want to pay a lot of money for it, in my opinion. 2nd place, 75299. 290 Mos Eisley Cantina. As promised in my opening segment, I've said everything I'm going to say about this set in this video. And then my first place set is the Dorado Fortress 10320, 13 mentions, E-score of 2.5. Fantastic deal. So nostalgic, so classic. We aren't getting many pirate sets, and even if we get a couple more, this one is still going to fit right in and be a very good centerpiece, and I think desirable for many years to come. As always, thanks a lot for watching. That's a wrap, and I will see you in the next one.